Good afternoon, good evening, folks. James Hicks here from Hicks New Media, and welcome to another edition of the Digital Collective. Today, Friday, December the 10th, we've got a fantastic conversation ahead of you today. I'm not going to delay, I'm not going to waste time. I want to get right into it because I want to be cognizant of this man's time. Darren Buckner is with us behind the scenes. He's been kind of leading the world from a remote work perspective long before it was cool, long before it was required, long before the COVID lockdown, and we were brought into this type of remote type of working scenario. You know, his passion about bringing the power of humanity to virtual work led to the founding of Workfrom. Workfrom is a company that is focused on removing the social disconnects individuals and companies feel in this new way of work. We're going to dive into that statement, that phenomenal mission statement. We're going to dive into what Workfrom does and kind of that what's in it for you from a consumer perspective and a user perspective. We're going to get granular in terms of what the team is working on now in the short term and the midterm and maybe even the long term if we can go into some of those conversations. If you have questions for and during the conversation, definitely put a Q in front of your statement so we can bring those up. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me bring on Mr. Darren Buckner. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thank you. Amazing intro. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. We got folks coming in the comments, watching from all locations. Like I was saying, kind of in the back room, we are streaming to multiple platforms, so we're going to have hopefully a lot of engagement. We'll be on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and also on the hicksnewmedia.com website. So that's a whole lot of different audiences watching, right? So,
It
and I
is.
think again, from that perspective, I kind of want to dive into the statements as well of uh, first let's talk about who you are and what it is that you do, you know, kind of that elevator pitch. I gave the high level piece, but who Darren Buckner is, why Darren Buckner is the CEO and the co-founder of Workfrom, and then what Workfrom is, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, that's tough to do succinctly, probably, but let me give it a shot. The who, who I am, uh, co-founder and CEO of Workfrom. I started this company out of a desire and a passion to help enable more community, more connection, more humanity in what we now call, remote work. Back then, we called it a lot of different things. I've been doing this for some time, as you mentioned in the intro. But my background is largely in software. I became a software developer, a software engineer in my early 20s. And before that, I was on a whole different trajectory. I actually used to be a bouncer and used to do private security in Las Vegas and other cities, mostly in nightclubs, but helping people stay safe in the streets, if you will, and in other public venues. Realized that there was very little future in that as I got a bit older. And also, my interests were always more on the technical side. I had a passion that ran deep, probably since I was in my early teens. And in fact, that passion ran so deep that it led me to do things like building computers from scratch and teaching myself how to code. And ultimately, it was the teaching myself how to code that led me to a career in software. Now that career in software started, like I said, in my kind of mid 20s, and this is I don't want to date myself too much, but this is going back over a decade, and I was lucky to be able to work remotely, as we now call it. Even back then, as a software engineer, being able to work from a laptop or a computer and internet connection was certainly possible for me, and that was really the requirements at that point. I mean, people didn't know much more about how to make remote work, and there were very few of us doing it. So I was lucky to experience that early on, and it opened my eyes to a whole new world of work, a whole new way of work, and especially the benefits, but also
Mm,
the challenges. And the challenges are the things that I wanted to address so that people could ultimately experience the benefits.
that's amazing. And there's a lot to unpack there, right? I mean, I
There it is.
kind of want to ask how do you go from bouncer to software developer to to co-founder CEO within the technology organization. Like, we could have a whole hour long conversation just about that because that's a cool story. But I think I want to stay focused, and I want to ask again. The world stopped for a while, right? We for 15, 17 months, right? And that it really required everyone else who wasn't already part of that remote working type of mentality to adjust. If there's any blessing of COVID, and it's weird even saying that, it is that I think work from seems to be purposely suited for the remote, the distributed, the teams that need to be removed from each other physically. So how did COVID lockdown, how did all of that really affect your go forward strategy? Did that change anything from a roadmap perspective, what you and your team was talking about? Did you already feel like, we were on to something before it was necessary? Because like I was saying in the intro, you were on this path before it was required. But how did the lockdown period really affect what you were doing at work from?
Yeah, it shifted what we did fundamentally. We were focused on remote work before
Yeah.
the pandemic, certainly, and so this is something that was been near and dear to us. But what it did to us is that it did two things. It gave us an understanding of what path we could have going forward that maybe wasn't available to us even just a few months prior. Most of what we had been looking at and how we had been intending to grow a few months prior to COVID it was kind of a longer term strategy. We knew that remote work was on the rise. That was clear. We were certainly tuned into that, and we had the pulse of it. We understood what we could do to reach people and continue to enable that for folks. But it was certainly not mainstream. And all of a sudden, you had everybody in the world. It felt
Yeah.
like thinking about and continuing with remote work. It was a bit of an odd period for us because it seemed like everybody was now focusing on the things that we had been focusing on for a long time, and for us it wasn't new or odd, and the problems and the excitement and all the things that people were experiencing, it kind of felt like deja vu for us. We were going through this all again, even though we'd been seeing this for some time. So specifically, we had built a search engine, if you will. It's a sort of like a Yelp type experience to help people all over the world. And we're talking about on 6 different continents. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that have ultimately used this experience to find physical places to get work done,
Mm.
and not just physical places to get work done, but physical places that had other people that were likely working like you, right? So being able to connect into that energy, into the kind of the social flow of work that's really hard to do for remote workers, especially if you are spending the majority of your time working at home, maybe with a dog, a cat, and some children, and that's not the kind of socialization that long term is sustainable. So we were on that path. We were making some changes to the business, but once COVID hit, we realized there was a new opportunity in front of us to enable more of this kind of connection virtually. And we knew that it was going to be something that so many people were going to be struggling with because we had seen it again firsthand for years and years. We had talked to so many people who have gone through these struggles, found ways to deal with it to an extent, teams, individuals, organizations, communities. I mean, we had just looked at these problems from so many angles that we knew we were the right team to help here. And so we had to regroup, we had to pivot a bit, and we ultimately focused on building a new platform. And we call this platform, we call the platform the Virtual Cafe platform. And it is a platform that has roots in our cafe and kind of co-working culture and community. It's definitely born out of the experiences and the feedback and all of the conversations that we've had with so many people and so many organizations over the years. And it is directly intended to address the social disconnect and the isolation that so many people feel from their colleagues, from their friends, from all kinds of people, but really just from people. And
Mm.
this tool is a simple way to do that.
That's a fantastic distinction, right? Because I was going to go into what is and what isn't work from, right? So folks that are listening, folks that are watching, don't think of this as kind of like a CRM, or this is not Teams. This is not Zoom. This is not any of that experience. I'm a piggyback off of that word right there. You talk about experience. So I'm gonna log into my particular room right here. So first and foremost, thank you for allowing me to even have this room. I know I've got some additional access in terms of the functionality within my space, but walk through for folks what we're looking at and kind of the again that experience that folks will get here, that social engagement, that social interaction that folks will get from the work from cafe space.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's important, I think, to understand the genesis of this and a little bit better so that it translates into what you're looking at today. We initially wanted to build an experience, an always on experience. So think about a destination on the internet that could bring some of the same kind of connectivity and again, social flow that a cafe or a coffee shop or a co-working space could provide in the physical world. And if you think about those spaces, they are a destination. They have the ability to sort of open and close the door. People can come in and out depending on who you want to. People can come in and out in a very sort of drop in or free flowing fashion, and there are people that you can connect with inside of a space like that. And so when we started from that perspective, what could we do to effectively create a sort of virtual cafe experience? We knew that there were some underpinnings that we had to get right. One of the things was these spaces really did need to feel much more like an environment. They needed to be able to reflect the host or the people who were creating the space for the purpose that they were creating it. This meant that we needed to be able to bring more things to the experience than just the people on either a square or a bubble, on camera. That certainly, that technology needed to be there, but we needed to bring more to the environment. And so, as you can notice in your room here, you've got this backdrop, if you will, that right now you have designed a certain way, but this backdrop can be a number of different things.
Yeah, I'll get
It
a little
can
more
be,
fancy later.
yeah, if you,
I'll get a
yeah,
little more
you know,
creative, but
I don't, but I think this is creative enough, and it underscores the point that you have something that is meaningful to you that you would
yeah,
want for people to connect with, and we want to enable that, right? We want it to be yours. It's not what we think it should be or what anybody else. It really does. We want this to be an extension of yourself, sort of your little corner of the internet, if you will. Um, so these rooms, these spaces, they are always on. You can drop in. They have music that is available to every participant in the room. There is a shared chat. We work really hard to bring in other types of ambiance that really does help the brain feel as if it is part of a shared experience. And this is really key. This is again something that our team understands very, very uniquely, and I think we have a certain perspective, a certain worldview on how to enable that because of the work that we've done with so many people over the years. We've failed and we've tried and failed at a lot of things, and we've found so many things that didn't work. Right? We ultimately came to an understanding of what could work. So these rooms are yours. They're fully customizable. You can configure them to look and feel and sound like you want them to, and then most importantly, you can invite your people, whoever those people are, in to enjoy these spaces with you. And there's no need to start and stop anything.
yeah.
They're in a destination. And this is where I go to see James, right? This is where I go to connect with Darren.
So yeah, let's talk about that. But I do want to say what's out and give some shouts out to Mr. Sheridan, who is in the building, who is kind of the one who put us together. So good to see you, Ron.
Yeah,
Good to see you as well, JP, and
fantastic
Fight for
person.
Fear. So glad you guys are joining and in the comments. But you touched on a couple of things, and I don't want to overshadow them. You talked a little bit about the environment, about the room, and being able to open and close the door. You notice I got the door closed right now, so that's why no one's in the room. Since it's out there, it's part of the internet. Anyone could probably, the way I've got it right now is a public space. Anyone could access it if they had the link. So obviously, while we're live, I don't want just some random folks jumping into my
You
room.
don't want to experience the fun of the
But
random folks on the internet.
that
Yeah,
would
yeah,
that would take the stream
okay.
to a whole nother level, and we might get pulled off of LinkedIn for that. But again, you have that functionality and capability as a user and owner to that. But this right here, man, is the coffee shop. That this whole the music piece. Let me tell you something.
Hmm.
I don't listen to the radio much anymore. I will go into my room. You see I'm on the smooth chill channel right
There
here.
it is. Yeah,
That's where
I
I'm
use that one a lot.
sitting, and I've got that in the background, and I'm just letting that vibe happen. So I love that ambient music behind me, different type of channels, different type of stations, things like that. So I love that piece. The chat is obviously key as well, and then having the video piece. But talk about this aspect right here, the streaming, the live
The live
streaming
stream.
piece, and that I mean, we don't want to pass over that. Just gloss over that. Talk about what the live streaming piece within Workfrom actually allows people to do.
Yeah, we there were a lot of folks who helped shape this, even in the very earliest days of this technology, of this product. We invited in a lot of folks from our community, as well as we created a wait list that people were able to get on, and we worked to move people up that wait list, and it became, I think, thousands of people pretty quickly. And so we were lucky in that we had a lot of exposure early on, and people were able to show us how they wanted to use these
Mm.
spaces. You go into these things with assumptions, and certainly we went into it with a lot of education, and certainly we tested a number of things, but you just don't know how the stuff's going to happen until
Right.
you get it out there in the world. And what we realized that there were a number of groups that really could benefit from having a more live stream experience. And we knew that these rooms, that what we had built with these spaces, I should say, we knew that they were going to enable a certain level of creativity. They were going to inspire a certain level
Mm.
of creativity, and people were going to be able to should be able to do more in their spaces, like when they are inspired. And we also understood that the concept of live streaming, and something that we're doing right now, is not is now probably an integral part of how a lot of folks will just be interacting in general, for work, for other things. And so we wanted to make sure that we were on the right side of that. Like most things that we do, we try to be as thoughtful as we can, and not just put something there, not just create a feature because it's possible or because somebody said they want it, but really try to get to the understanding of what needs to happen in order to enable
Mm.
the kind of emotional payoff, right, or to solve the real challenge. And so I think our approach to this streaming is actually quite thoughtful, and most of the things that we do, obviously, I think are that way. We One thing that we learned early on is that a number of people are looking to be able to stream a second camera, and that was a
Yeah.
distinction from
Okay.
the other platforms that were out there. But because people are doing things and often want to be able to show things, or maybe making things or whatever it is, a second camera would be useful. And so one of the unique aspects of our streaming is that you can have a link sent directly to your phone, and you can start streaming from a phone as a second camera, if that's something that's useful to you.
Wait a minute. So the camera that I've got highlighted right now is my main mirrorless right now. It's seeing me from that
Mhm.
side, so I can actually maybe via NDI or something have my mobile phone and have two feeds coming in to my work from room.
That's right. What'll happen is when you go to stream, you have the ability to connect your phone,
Right.
and it sends you a text message. You click on the link that's in the text message, and it opens your web browser, and immediately you are able to start streaming. And so everybody will see what the camera sees.
That's
Now
very cool.
that will be in full view. Like most streaming, it will be in full view of the experience. Although the ambiance and everything else is still there. Well, that's important. We don't want to lose that. But now you've got a camera and you're detached from your physical computer. Certainly, you can have it right next to you, or you could go for a walk. You could take us for a tour. You could do a number of things, and you can imagine the kinds of opportunities that opens up when you're detached from your physical machine, and can kind of flow back and forth between devices, if that's what you prefer. And then we can talk about how people are using it right now. I mean, there's real solid applications that people are doing right now in
Yeah,
the in
well,
the
well,
real
let's
world.
talk about that because you might what that brought to my mind was again, and then a lot of us in the content creation ecosystem are talking about always about building community and serving our community and making
That's right.
sure that we're listening and providing relevant content to the folks that resonate with our messages. This really allows us to wait. I'm thinking of actually expanding my usage of having something like an office hours, right? Again, so
Okay.
not just opening it up one off times for just conversations with family and friends or whatever the case may be, but opening it up to the community, having
Hmm.
random work sessions where we just sit here, chill out, listen to my smooth chill channel. Everyone's in the room. I decide to walk around with my phone and have some massively, it pontificated high end conversation, and act like
Yeah.
I'm solving the world's problem. But right, but have those types of
Yes.
environments and sessions and conversations with community all in one place. And again, like you say, I don't have to be tied to a desk. Now I can via my mobile phone actually be mobile with this as well. So you're removing those barriers. And again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is how I'm going to put this to use now because now
Hmm.
I know that piece as well. But talk to us like you were saying about folks that are actually using work from in some of their use cases today.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate the description. It is about removing barriers. It's about figuring out ways to get people to feel as if they're in closer proximity, even though they may be thousands of miles away, and in many cases they are. And the technology is there to do it, and it just takes I think a thoughtful approach to making it more relevant to more people. So one example, we've partnered with a brand. I won't mention the brand now, but we've partnered with a brand early on to enable their community of experts, if you will, to use rooms that have been set up in such a way that it provides an ambiance that is important to that brand. And these experts are in their spaces, showing or ultimately providing sort of trainings or giving workshops in which they are using a second camera in many cases to see that happening in real time. They're building with their hands, or they're creating with their hands in many cases, and so this second camera angle has become an integral part of how they're able to do that. It becomes so cumbersome to try to make that work with so many other platforms. And in fact, they came to us with that problem and said, "Look, I think this is something you can solve. Well, can you do it?" And that was a challenge for us, and we said absolutely, because we see that this has so many applications, even far beyond what they wanted to do with it. But that's a good example. So if you're creating something and you want to be able to show that up close, and you want to be able to have the benefits of a shared experience where people can drop in from anywhere, we have to put these pieces together and be intentional about it. And that's one example of how people are using it. Another one, quickly, I think, is just kind of shows you the breadth. There's another group that does sort of, I think, live broadcasts of fish. It's fish you can buy, and they show this when they're. I think it's like a show they produce, and I think it's called like On the Line. But they're out in the world, in nature, in spaces, and they are showing fish that are purchasable, that I believe gets delivered to your home. Now it's a fantastic world that we live in, where there are so many different ways we can connect with each other, but
Yeah.
enabling something like that provides just a pathway to that kind of creativity.
That's pretty cool, right? I would have never thought about that. But again, removing the barriers, allowing technology to remove those barriers.
Yeah.
You talked about being able to bring in a mobile phone as a camera. Let's talk about is there is an HTML5 type of capable? Is there going to be a mobile app or something of that nature, or is it
Mhm.
just from the mobile browser? How again would I be if I was sitting in my car right before going into the gym and I had something I just had to say and wanted to say to the community? Could I just
Right.
fire it up off of my phone?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you could. And we are looking at options to kind of progressively meet you in like places, technology, meet you with the technology you're using in ways that enable the features of that technology. So you can imagine an environment like this that we've created on a phone needs to work and look and a little different, right? So um, we want it to be ubiquitous as possible. We want as many people to be able to experience this. Otherwise, we can't really effectively remove these
Mm,
barriers, these
good point.
distance between people, right? This needs to be something that can actually be somewhat of an equalizer in the world of virtual experience. And so we want it to work in browser, most places. But yes, we will likely go deeper into mobile apps or something like that at some point. It's not there today.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I see Ron Sheridan saying, "I want that link," and that's a teaser question right there because I know the man knows the link, but I'm definitely going to make sure that folks have a link to workfrom.co in the description for this session. But I will still put it back on the screen right now. Yeah, so workfrom.co is where you go to learn about everything that the company has today to offer, kind of a high level of what the platform does. I like the fact that you've also got engagement across the country. I'm gonna say across the globe, to be honest with you, right?
Yeah,
So it's
across the world. Yeah.
most search cities, right? So I could literally be right here in San Francisco, and I can find folks that are part of the work from ecosystem, connect with them, bring them into my room, and that type of thing. What's
Yeah,
um what's next, right? Again, because I think what you've got right here, you've got a fantastic foundation.
that's right.
You've got a fantastic uh, platform, and by adding that live streaming capability, I think you really, to be honest with you, have leap. leaped over anyone else trying to do something very similar to you, right? Just being able to share and communicate with folks remotely and push that out in real time. That's a key thing that shouldn't be overlooked. But we always want to know what's next.
Yeah.
we always, I don't want you to talk anything obviously that you can't talk from a public perspective, but
Yeah.
keep feeding it, right? What do you got next coming up for work from?
Well, so yeah, I've alluded to this a few times, but we really stay very close to the folks who are helping us get to where we are, right? So these are people who are using the tools today, who are part of our community, and those that are giving us consistent feedback and ultimately helping us kind of shape what that future looks like. And so we're doing a lot of that, and what we're seeing is that there are a couple opportunities that we really love. One is that we want to be able to do more of what we've been able to do for our team using this platform for other teams. So we didn't necessarily set out to enable the kind of culture building and I want to say almost extra layer of connectivity that our team already felt was quite strong. Now we're a fully remote team. We have been since day one. I've actually never met some of my teammates in person. Hopefully soon, but because of the way the world has been, that's just not been possible as much as it used to be. But we started using the virtual spaces, the virtual cafes for ourselves, and we started to do things with them that sometimes looked like trying to test and understand what was possible. But what happened in the process is that we felt like we were becoming more connected. We were learning more about
Mm,
each other. There was something really powerful, and we weren't always able to describe it. It took us some time to understand what was happening, but it was there, and we all knew when we looked at each other and we were being honest. If it went away, we'd be pretty upset. Whatever we had created and whatever we were doing was something that was important, and we didn't want it to go away. Even though, again, we felt like we were in a pretty strong spot before that, and certainly we were. So that magic, we've leaned into that to try to figure out what's happening there and what we can do to help others. And so we've got some things for teams specifically that are coming down, the pike, if you will, and it teams in a traditional sense, certainly organizations, companies, but also I think these things apply to any well-formed group, community, other types of organizations that will or organizing that happens out there with people. And so I think we want to do more of that, and we've got some line of sight on some things we'll be doing there. Another thing that I can talk about a little bit is that if I don't know if you've actually seen this, and you might, I don't know if you can demo this even, but if you go back to your space,
okay.
you now have a new view or a relatively recent view of what we call, your neighborhood. So in the top left hand side there, you've got a little button there, and when you click on that, you get to see what the spaces that you've created, and you can create more, and that's now possible. And you also get to see right now there's some other spaces that are available inside the community, and these spaces are kind of coming online for the first time, and we're figuring out the best ways to or the best types of spaces to feature there. But the point is, you're starting to see that we're pulling back from the individual space level and
Okay.
starting to build what can look a lot more like a universe of spaces, if you will, in which you can do different things, and the interconnection between those spaces is something that we're very interested as well. We know that there's a lot of benefit from the in-room experience, the in-space experience, but we also think that there's a lot of benefit that can come from being able to give people a sense of presence across a group of spaces and build in some of that serendipity and some of that magic that everyone knows can happen when people can be closer to each other, whether they're in the same room or not. And so we're looking at that a lot as well. And you can imagine that would apply to somebody like yourself, who's a creator, a builder, as well as somebody who is working closely in a tight knit team of some sort. These kinds of things, again, are of interest to us and what we'll be working more on.
I love that piece about the community cafe. I'm thinking now. So again, this wasn't even written part of my prepared
I'd like to
notes.
surprise you a little bit here.
I'm thinking about competition, and I'm thinking of social audio. I'm thinking of Twitter Spaces. I'm thinking of Clubhouse. I'm thinking of whatever Facebook is trying to do. Me and
Sure.
Zuckerberg don't get along, so I drop his name like
You
it's.
too, huh?
I'm never going to get a sponsorship from Meta or whoever. But
Mm.
talk about that, right? I mean, this could be an evolutionary next step or next piece, right? In terms, and again, I don't work from, but I'm just
Sure.
saying where you can take the company, but this could be an opportunity, an option for folks again, because I think audio was fantastic, and I love the art of communication, but video is something completely different, right? Being able to see your face, being able
That's
to
right.
emote. You see, I talk with my hands a lot, but having that type of thing within a work from room, live stream, audio, video communication, ambient music, all of that. I mean, do you see reaching into kind of those ecosystems and saying, folks, yeah, you've got 80% of what you're trying to do over here in Twitter
Mm.
Spaces / Clubhouse. You can get that other 20% over here from work from and be good. I'm just gonna put that out there, but I don't
Yeah,
want to
no,
cause no trouble.
well, no trouble, no, and of course, we've thought of these things. I mean, the parallels are pretty clear. I can say that we're not interested in building an impact. I don't want to. I don't want to make it sound pejorative, certainly, but I'm not interested in building sort of a surface experience. There's a lot of that out there.
Talk
We're
about that.
interested
I like that. No,
in
talk
the
about that.
depth.
Yeah.
So we're interested in the depth. We're interested in the relationship building and the connections that can come over even a long period of time, right? The sort of longitudinal experience, things that can evolve and grow over time, things that actually can be memorialized and become an important part of a culture. These are the things that we innately care about as a team and as an organization. And so it's hard for us to get excited about building an experience that is vast but not not very deep. And I think that those experiences, and you mentioned a few of them, there are folks out there who are passionate about that and will be better at it than us. But I will also say that what you see pretty quickly, and what you saw there pretty quickly, is absolutely the sort of evolution of where a lot of what we think will happen, the connectivity um, that will help enable what a lot of folks are thinking about and calling maybe the metaverse. Uh, you know, we tend to want to make that very fantastical and think about it as being a virtual alternative to ourselves, and we're going to need hardware headsets and all kinds, and we're going to be living in a whole different world that is
Right.
entirely digital. And I can dream as well, and these are fun things to think about, but I think the reality is we need to first understand and then solve for bringing people closer together in the forms in which we understand today, in which we've developed ourselves to be very good at as humans over the last thousands and thousands of years. I mean,
Yeah.
what we do well is be social, and so while there will be new technologies that will help with that, we've got a lot available to us right now, and I think it's a matter of just putting the puzzle together in a way that makes it easy for us to do. And so we see that we sort of start there, and we want to do more of it, and we think that there are definitely paths to that by creating more of an interplay between individuals and groups and virtual spaces, and we again, we just think our approach to this is going to be more thoughtful and frankly vetted more than what's out there today.
Look, I'll say it because you won't say it. You're the CEO of the company, so I'll go ahead and say it. You just you are cutting through the noise. How
Yeah,
about that?
that's
Right?
what we're doing.
There are so many other platforms, and the ones that I did mention that are very superficial, very low constructive touch, right? Again,
Mm-hmm.
what you're building
Mm-hmm.
from work from. I mean, just the statements that you have from a mission perspective, and what we've shown today, and kind of where your mindset is. It really is bringing together the societal aspect, the mental health aspect as well. Because again,
Absolutely.
with that 17 or so months, and I keep saying 17 months, but with the lockdown period, a lot of people had that disconnect from their community, from their coworkers, from their family, whatever the case may
That's
be.
right.
You again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is from a third person looking in. What work from is doing is bringing back that healthy engagement, that healthy conversation, face to face conversation, face to face engagement. You've got the music piece is the thing, brother. Just by having that,
I
and
hear
again,
you.
I've got my cool jazz going in the background in my room. That's what's up. and you don't get that from those other social audio types of platforms. You just get that I'm on a stage, and others are listening, and
Yeah,
let me tell you,
yeah,
let me talk. That can be
yeah.
so old and mundane, and I liked how you're doing. You're leveling the playing field as well. So
Well, there are levels to this, right? And so what we're seeing is a lot of the latest or the recent efforts to connect folks in this broader space is kind of level one stuff.
yeah,
It's very transactional in many ways. It doesn't allow people to really create a culture or to create an identity in a way that they feel good about, sort of memorializing and continuing to evolve over time. I mean, again, it's just kind of level one, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's an important part of how we're going to get to where we ultimately go. But we've got also a piece to play in that, or a role to play in that, and we think that our what we're doing is looking at sort of the next levels of that. We got a long ways to go. We've got a lot to learn, and we're grateful for being able to learn from a number of these other platforms that are doing some great things. I mean, certainly I would be remiss if I didn't say that we're pulling, we're learning from those things. I mean, we're not trying to reinvent things that work well, but we understand that this is a new space, that the challenge is suddenly massive, that we suddenly have a massive audience and community, if you will, in which we can help, and we're uniquely in a position to do that because of what the choices we've made for our organization, and that's what we just want to do. I mean, literally, we wake up every day and we rant and rave and talk about how we want to do something that's going to be incredibly meaningful for people, and we know how to do that, right? And so if anything, we just want to get it out into the world more. We
I,
just want more people to experience it.
I love that. And I'm gonna bring up this comment from someone in the audience, but I want to piggyback on what you just said right there. I gave 10 years at Apple, right, and
Mm-hmm.
I've had a personal one-on-one with Steve Jobs back in the day as well. So I've got that story. But literally right in front of my studio here is his "Put a Dent in the Universe" quote,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
really all we're really trying to do. We're trying to put a dent, do something meaningful to where
That's
we're the
right.
crazy ones, right? We're the ones trying to change
Mm-hmm.
a piece of our evolution, a piece of what we touch, and manage that sphere of influence that we have. Just trying to put a dent in the universe. So kudos to you on that. Gotti was asking
Well
a
said.
question about, are there any special pieces of equipment that are required to fire up a work from room?
No, absolutely not. In fact, we've worked really hard to keep it as simple as possible. Everything should be up and running within minutes, even getting a design to your new space or spaces. But yeah, it's fast, snappy, and encourage you to get in right away. There's nothing you need. There's nothing holding you back.
Love it. Love it. I again will put links to MySpace. I don't want to say MySpace. Oh my gosh. Now I just dated myself
It's okay, right?
to my environment within the
Yeah,
description. So we could start having some more conversations with folks in my environment. Again, I want to say thank you you, Darren, and also to Mr. Ron Sheridan in the comments for first putting us together so I can see this. And ever since we had that initial email conversation, I've been part of the team, right? I've been talking about it and saying folks need to put it to use. So how
thank
can
you.
folks get in touch with you though, man, if they have any additional questions about what you do and the platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for showing folks many times they can go to workfrom.co. That's where you'll be able to find both of the products that we now have, and they both uniquely help remote workers or folks who work virtually outside of an office in a couple different ways. But both are very valuable. So check both out. If you're interested in checking out the newest virtual spaces, you can go to beta.workfrom.coffee. So beta.workfrom.coffee, and that's where you'll be able to create an account and within minutes have your own virtual cafe. And if you want to find us on social, certainly we're at Workfrom on most of the social platforms, and then I'm personally at Darren Buckner on Twitter and Instagram. I'm most active on Twitter. And then if you want to reach out and talk about anything via email, hello@workfrom.co is a great place. We do read all those emails, and we're always excited to connect with more folks. And the last thing I'll say is, once you do get into the virtual spaces, the virtual cafes application, definitely check out some of the community spaces. I and my co-founders and others are often in these spaces, and so you can connect with more of the Workfrom community that way, and ultimately see what the whole experience is like with other people, even if you don't have folks readily available to use your space right now.
I love it. I love it, man. Thank you again. I want to be cognizant of your time. I want to be respectful of it as well. Thank you for sharing the story. Thank you for sharing where you are and where you intend to go in the short and midterm. You're on to something, man. You're definitely
Thank
on
you.
to something. And I'm going to restate here what Melanie is saying, right? The concept seems incredibly awesome. It's so simple, right? But
That's
it
right.
seems to work, right?
Yeah.
It's just something that we've needed, and coming out of again this interesting season of the whole planet, right? This is something
Mm-hmm.
that allows us to continue to have those engagements, those interactions, and those shared experiences. I'm gonna keep using that word when I talk
Great
about work
experiences.
from for sure. Um,
Yes, please.
Darren, thank you, man. I'm gonna stay in touch with you because I want to see what you got going on next. I'm gonna invite you into my room every now and then. We'll chop it up over there. But folks, go check them out. Workfrom.co. Darren, be good to yourself, and I'll talk to you later, man.
I appreciate it, James. Thanks, everybody.